The faint whine of static crackled through the speakers in the mission control room. It had been a routine sweep of deep space, nothing more than protocol. Yet, somewhere amidst the hum of machinery and the low murmur of voices, the signal emerged. Faint at first. Then stronger. "We're picking up something unusual," reported Dr. Lena Carver, a leading astrophysicist. Her brow furrowed as she scrutinized the spectrogram. The peaks and valleys of the waveform were familiar, yet undeniably strange. "Another pulsar?" Commander Grant Mason asked, standing behind her. "No," Lena replied, her voice tight with disbelief. "It's more complex than that. It's structured. Intelligent." The room fell silent. Structured signals often meant one thing: artificial origin. "Can you trace it?" Mason's voice was steady, but Lena caught the slight tremor behind it. Lena's fingers danced over the keyboard. The screen flared, showing a coordinate grid mapping the galaxy's depths. The signal's source flashed on the display. "There," she said, pointing. "In the Valorum sector." "But, that doesn't make sense." Mason leaned closer. "Why not?" Lena hesitated. "Because it's coming from a planet. A planet that shouldn't exist." The starship Argus cut through the blackness of space, a silver spear gliding toward the coordinates of the anomaly. The crew on board was tense, anticipation and dread coiled in their chests. Approaching destination, the navigation officer announced. "Dropping out of FTL in 3, 2, 1. The viewport's shields retracted. Silence fell as the crew beheld the world before them. A planet. Blue oceans swirled with white clouds. Green continents sprawled beneath the atmosphere's shimmering veil. It was unmistakable. Earth. Except, it wasn't Earth. "What in the name of," whispered Mason. His voice trailed off as confusion gave way to awe. The sensors confirmed the impossible. Oxygen-nitrogen atmosphere. Gravity identical to Earth's. Oceans of saltwater. Forests teeming with chlorophyll-rich vegetation. It was Earth, but it was somewhere else. "This is impossible," Lena muttered, scanning the data. No records of any terraforming operations. No signs of human colonization. "What do you make of it?" Mason asked. Lena's lips were a thin line. "It's as if the universe copied our planet." "But why? How?" The question hung unanswered in the cabin. "Commander," the pilot interrupted. "We're getting a surface transmission. It's repeating. A distress call." Mason's jaw tightened. "Broadcast RID. Prepare for landing." The landing thrusters of the Argus hissed as the ship descended onto the planet's surface. The air was crisp, cool, an eerie mimicry of springtime on Earth. Towering pine trees lined the landscape, their scent unmistakably familiar. "All systems green," the pilot reported. "Atmosphere is breathable." Lena donned her exploration gear and followed Mason down the ramp. Their boots crunched on soil that felt real. Too real. Birdsong echoed through the air, the chirps identical to those of Earth's thrushes. "This is unnerving," Mason muttered. They walked toward the source of the signal, a small beacon blinking weakly in a clearing. Nearby, they found something that made their blood run cold. A figure. It lay slumped against a rock, clad in a tattered exploration suit identical to their own. The face was obscured by a cracked helmet visor. Mason knelt and carefully removed the helmet. Lena gasped. It was Mason. Or rather, a version of him. The same sharp features, the same scar along his jaw, every detail was identical. But the skin was pale, almost translucent. The eyes stared blankly into nothingness. "What is this?" Mason whispered. "A copy," Lena said, her voice trembling. "A perfect, lifeless copy." The ground beneath them seemed to shudder, as though the planet itself was watching. Hours blurred into days as they explored the planet, uncovering more mysteries. Cities stood where Earth's cities should have been, empty, silent, yet pristine. Streets wound through skyscrapers that gleamed in the sunlight, untouched by time. "It's like a snapshot of Earth," Lena said. "Preserved. But without people. What happened to the inhabitants?" Mason asked. Lena shook her head. "Maybe there never were any. Maybe this planet was never meant to be lived on. Then what's the purpose of this place?" Before Lena could answer, the sky darkened. A low rumble filled the air, deep and resonant. The buildings shimmered, their edges blurring. "Something's happening," Lena said, panic rising. The ground flickered beneath their feet. Mason looked at his hand and saw it waver, as though his skin were made of mist. "We need to get back to the Argus," Mason shouted. They ran, the world around them warping and shifting. Trees melted into streaks of color. The ground turned insubstantial. They barely made it to the ship. The hatch sealed behind them as the world outside dissolved into chaos. Through the viewport, they watched the planet shimmer, then split, like a reflection shattered by a stone. The Argus ascended, leaving the unraveling planet behind. Silence filled the cabin as the crew tried to comprehend what they had witnessed. "It was never a real world," Lena said finally. "Just a reflection. A cosmic echo of Earth." "But why?" Mason asked. Lena's eyes were distant. "Maybe the universe mirrors itself in ways we can't understand. Maybe we were never meant to see it." As the Argus drifted into the star-specked void, the shattered reflection of Earth faded behind them, a reminder that some mysteries are meant to remain unsolved. And somewhere, in the cold darkness, echoes of other worlds waited to be discovered.